Nothing spectacular to look at either.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, anybody?
Can anybody
Yes.
hear us?
Yes,
There you go.
I can hear you.
Thank you, Deborah. Julia.
I can hear you guys.
Yes.
Okay. This is the regular meeting for the Fraser Park Public Utility District for Thursday, September 8th, 2022. We're beginning at 6:05. And we'll call to order with the pledge of the flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call directors, Director Garcia,
Present.
Director Nyman,
Present.
Director Schellenberg. Yes, sir. Director Kelly. Here. Director Gibson is here. Discussion vote on adjusting the agenda if necessary. Does anyone need to make any changes, or have you had a chance to look?
No, I think we're good. We're good.
Think we just plow right through it?
Yes.
Okay. Public comments. Items not listed on the agenda limited to 5 minutes. Do we have any member of the public who wishes to make a comment? Moving on then. Report of officers. President, Tiffany emailed JCIA about that issue, and they said they couldn't refund, which we thought, because it was way back 2017, 2018. However, they adjusted our amount of money in the pool of money, so we are looking good now if something catastrophic happens, and, hopefully we don't get another deal next year. Vice President?
But how come they can go back 10 years and charge us, but yet they can't go back and refund us?
No, they went back 10 years, and in one of those years it was wrong, and it made it bigger. Now they've taken that 10 years and they corrected that amount for 2018. So our pool of water, our pool of money right now is bigger, I didn't think they'd refund it.
So we have big claims.
But I don't think we'll get a bill for 10,000.
Hopefully that'll just keep that. Okay.
Vice President?
I don't have anything.
Secretary?
Nothing.
Treasurer?
Yes, two things. In the USDA payment fund account, me and Terry, as I had stated last time, we went to the bank and we gave Brenda the information. She said she was gonna get back to us within a few days, and she has not yet got back to us, which means I have to contact the bank again. And also, I was looking at our account, and it shows that on this August 1, they charged us another $30 analysis fee on that same account. So I'm gonna have to go and deal with that. Also, the Lako Woods Planning account, I have not had a chance yet to get with Tiffany. It shows that after clearing all our claims and everything, it shows that we have $117.89. $100 was what I transferred in, so there's $17.89, and I don't know why. So we'll have to look at and see what that's about, or why we have extra $17.89 and try to resolve that. But I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Thank you. Director Schellenberg?
Oh, and we need to, or you need to set up, I got that, notice that
Yeah, I did.
the, recurring payments ended this month, so we just
Yeah.
need to set up for next month,
Yeah, so we need
before
to,
next month.
yeah, so we need to, we need to get together and
Yeah.
go over the bond books and see what the new figure is, so we can set up for the reserve account. Yes, I saw that too. Thank you.
Okay, JPIA representative?
I have nothing.
Okay. Board member initiative? Managers report. A, administrative assistance report?
Okay, guys, pulled off 418 service work orders last month. A lot, we got a lot done. Got Katie's, back to the meter again. Sent out, I haven't been able to get a meter to replace that one for a long time. Finally got it, got it put in there. I've been working with the potholing guys. That's been going well. Tree, I've been mentioning I did this tree by the gate in the yard down there. Trim I knew was dead. Big branch fell off, and luckily it didn't hit the truck or anything. That's on the weekend, so I got a quote for if we let this guy keep the wood. $2,850 to take the tree down. So remember several years ago when a branch hit Lisa's car out here in the parking lot, we had an arborist come and check him, and he said the one out here didn't have more years in it than the one down in the yard. He was already dying, but he said he would last, a few more years. Now it's time to take it down, so I think I'm gonna $3,500. We keep the wood. By that, somebody just told me that usually they charge you to take the haul off the wood, so this guy's giving us money for it, so we should go with that guy. I didn't put it on the agenda item, I just got it dropped off yesterday or today. But 2/3 of the tree, or at least dead. The one big branch fell off. The center stalk has been dead since the last arborist, so it's time to take it down. Been in the newspaper 2 weeks in a row now. Last week it was regarding a pot of money from Scrivener that didn't get grant money for the park. The article didn't really come out quite the way I said it. It amounts to the same thing, but what I said was they feel like putting the pond back in is the most desired thing in Fraser Park around the mountain. So I said, well, really, in the middle of a historic drought, it seems like a weird thing to push for, but I said, I feel like, I was asked what steps to go through. I said, well, if somebody went to our hydrologist, Ken Smith, and he did a study, because last year, whenever it was, he sat down and talked to him, he thought it could be doable, and not affect our water supply by be pulling it back out again down at well 5, and now it would be well 8. But so I just explained the steps that would have to go through. First, the board would have to vote and give their blessing. And I said, I think most of the board, they would like to have a pond, but whether or not it's feasible in the middle of a drought, that's another story. But nobody on the board doesn't want a pond. If they would have to vote, then the county would have to vote, the state would have to say, yeah, they could do it. So anyway, I went through the steps of how that would go about. But then this week's article was, I got the paper to do one on the grant for pipeline, but it turned out to be like 3 or 4 topics kind of meshed together. We had discussed USA's, why we had to do them, to not hit pipe gas lines and stuff.
Oh, USA did.
And then people, get redirecting water flow and flooding houses, and so the $10 million mainline replacement grant kind of got lost a little bit in this article. So I went over and talked to Gary and asked him if we could run another one when it's time, to really shed the light on this is what we're doing. And I have a question that maybe somebody on here can answer. For the USDA, when we got the grant, we had to put up the big sign. Are we supposed to do that for a state grant?
No,
You don't have to do it for a state grant?
I don't think so.
Oh,
It's
okay.
federal.
I just wanted to
Federal actually required it to pay for it.
Yeah, you still have to put up a sign.
Oh, we do? I don't
Yeah.
remember.
So who do we get the wording from and all that stuff, do you know?
Maybe Pam can shed some light here. She's
Yeah.
gone through this before.
So your agreement, your executed agreement is your friend. And it should have all the verbiage in there and what the signage should be. And that is usually done by the contractor when you put it out to bid. But if it didn't get taken care of during the bid, then you guys will have to make sure the signage is up.
Okay, well, we're still in the expiration stage for potholing, so I guess maybe when we go out to bid and whatever contractors awarded it, then they'll do it.
But we didn't put it up for our, I guess we haven't started the well yet, but I don't recall us putting one up for the emergency
Emergency what?
well.
Yeah, we did, USDA.
Oh, that one was just, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, since I've been here, we haven't done a state, funded project, so I didn't know, but it crossed my mind, so once we award the pipeline replacement thing, we'll make sure that we stay on that and make sure they put up a sign.
Well, what about the meter well replacement right now?
Well, yeah, I guess that's something we need to talk to, whoever got the bid, because, that should start, I suppose, until we actually start drilling. We don't have to be there, but that's something to make sure that we get.
Did they put up the sign, or do we fund that?
With the USDA, we funded it. It was just, we got the artwork from them, we had Gene make the sticker, and we got a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and sunk it in the ground, and stuck it on there, so it was easy. But it's just, I figured we probably ought to do that, and then that'll also shed light on the fact that we're doing this big grant, and people should be happy about it. And the last thing I got is, I finally hired, on a temporary basis, a new guy, and started training him. I got a letter from Jerry Pearson that he can sign. He has to sign it, 90 days again, if we extend it again. But just, we need to, until that other employee is out, until that's resolved, I gotta get somebody on that can start learning, start coming up, so, seems like a really nice guy, but Monday he has to go down and take his physical and, drug test and all that stuff, but other than that, his name's Chris, and he's worked out at TXI, I think, so, anyway, so he's a good guy, and, that's all I got.
Who's our number one guy on vacation?
Huh? Who was our number one guy on vacation?
I said, is our number one guy on, our lead operator on vacation?
No, sure.
Oh, okay.
Finding on vacation?
No, I didn't see him around today.
Oh, no.
I saw the other two guys.
Yeah, he half day off and then the other day, sure.
Okay.
Administrative assistance report, do you have anything, Tiffany?
I'm on the new laptop, Bill came in, installed everything. Clearly the microphone didn't work quite as we wanted it to. I may have to have him back to figure out why it's not working. And just a reminder from our listening Zoom people, the paper wrestling, because we're on the speakerphone, like the background is, like they're hearing all of it, but not close to speaking. Just a reminder, since somebody texted me. And, he did get our old camera working again. I'm not using it today because it's not mounted, but it looks like we won't have to buy an additional camera once we get the TV monitor, which, we went to buy it and it was out of stock, so we have to find another cheaper TV. But once we get that up there, we'll mount the camera and we should still be able to use our old camera and not have to buy a new one.
Excellent.
Director Schoenberg?
And the old laptop is where?
It's sitting on the
Right here.
ground here.
Okay, so we can use that for when we come in and do the,
Yeah, and employee training and all that kind of stuff, whatever, so it'll still be here.
okay.
Oh, that's the new laptop?
That's a win-win, right?
That's all I got.
Ad hoc committee reports, project committee.
So, we did the state update meeting. There's another one next week. came in once with, Dee and with Joan last month to, take a look at the SOI map. I don't know if he ended up bringing the new SOI map, he said he was going to.
Sent it to Blair, I think, or,
He shouldn't have sent it yet, we need to,
well,
Yeah, but he sent it to Blair for comment.
okay, because he said he was gonna put it up here the other
Yeah, he
day,
sent an
so,
email,
okay,
That's there,
oh,
new one.
okay, so we just have to put them up.
Yeah, we just haven't done it.
Okay.
Alright, there it is.
Okay, so, he said he was gonna bring that up, and then, you know, we went through all the stuff with the well 7 project, and that, I don't know, I'm waiting to find out where we're at on that, and, I think that's about it. Can you think of anything else, Dr. Minor?
I think that is covered pretty well.
We'll have out for the.
Oh, actually, there was one more thing, I forgot. We, needed to reschedule, we were supposed to go over the, budget for the, Lake of the Woods, the planning, budget to revise some of the figures that are in, there's stuff that we're done with that needs to be moved to another category. That didn't happen, we weren't ready for it. So, we can talk a little bit about that tonight
This is
and
Stan
instead another,
Eisman. It's
but we need
20 minutes
talk
after
about-
6, and I haven't had any audio from this meeting. Is
Fair?
Stan Eisman.
there a
Yeah,
problem?
there, you need to
You need to mute
please.
yourself. Please.
Okay, so anyway, so that we need to get a date for, but, we should be talking about that before the next state update meeting. Sorry about that, forgot about that.
Great. Accounts payable committee?
We met and, we went over the bills. There was nothing, I guess we'll talk about during the, accounts, but during the financials, but really there was nothing out of the ordinary. Everything seemed to be in line. The only thing that I wanted to make us aware is that they're still charging us, like, what is it, $500 and some odd dollars for AT&T, and so we're only paying them $350. So this is like the third month, so I'm hoping that
Do I have an update on that?
yeah.
When I called, the lady said, okay, well, let's give it one more bill to see what they do, but it's funny that it's come down to $550 from what it had been, so her opinion, although she couldn't look at it all, was that's what they adjusted it to. So I got a hold of Keith Bedard to put in our last phone systems, talked to him about a phone system that I didn't have the quote back on in time for this agenda. It will be on the next one. It's gonna save us a huge amount of money. It's gonna accomplish the things that you want. You could probably get rid of the answering service.
Yes.
And everything here will still work, so on the next agenda, I'll have that quote on how to do that. And, it's gonna save a bunch, and it's gonna give us all the things I've been wanting to,
Cause yeah, that was the other thing.
call quality, control, where I can listen to calls on certain dates and times and see, how, what was said, so everything we want. So on the next agenda, I'll present it to you.
Okay, next month's agenda?
No, the next
Next
meeting,
meeting?
22nd.
Director Schoenberg?
Yeah, that was the other
Did you raise
thing.
your hand?
No,
Is the answering service, bill was super high. It went up another astronomical amount, because we have the extra calls. So it's like,
How much is,
it was like
$649 or something.
649 or six.
well, they've
Yeah.
all kind of shot themselves in the foot now, because now we'll go a different route.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
financial committee?
So we met, a couple of times and went over, we're still doing the assets so that we can, well, it's not just assets, but basically what we're doing is we've got a spreadsheet and we're, if we find something that should have been an expense, but it got put, it's under $1,000 or whatever, or it's an obvious expense and not an asset, we're, putting that on the spreadsheet and saying it needs to be moved to the expenses. The opposite of that, if something was expense, but it was supposed to be an asset, we're putting that on the list and saying it needs to be moved to the assets. And then we're moving assets from, category to category because they got put under some really odd categories, at some point. And so we're trying to, kind of that original, spreadsheet I made that had all the crazy colors, and we were trying to, it's basically that, but with minus all the colors, makes a lot more sense, says exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, what the amounts are and all of that. So it's a really slow process. We're slogging through that. We need to do that first because that has to get in so we can finish our audit. Because we still are affecting some stuff. We can't go back into the 2019 year, 2019-20, but we are affecting some stuff in 2021. And then once we've got that, then we're going to be finishing the budget. We decided, and that's something for you to give us a okay on as a board, not just the committee, but because we already have the 5-year budget, it's not exactly dead on, but because the 5-year budget exists, and this year is one of the 5 years, we're kind of covered. It's up on the website. It's, there are some changes because things got more expensive. There are some changes because we're moving some items that were under distribution maintenance, which never should have been. They should have been assets to the assets. And a smaller amount of items, like I said, from the assets to the expenses. But the overall, I think distribution maintenance will be the biggest change. But I think that we're okay with the numbers that we currently have. Is that they don't seem like really outrageously wrong. It's just I'd like them to be more accurate.
No, they said there was a 2-month window before it started to be a problem.
Well, but we're right about there because the 2-month window was September, and so, but we've been sick. I've been sick.
Yeah,
we've both been sick. So we're doing the best we can. Deborah, we do have a meeting tomorrow, and I am way not up to it with this crazy freeway insanity. So I think we need to. I've been having to drive the long way around, and I'm hurting really badly. So I think that we need to reschedule that, maybe for later this weekend. I don't know if that's possible, or just, I think we could do that outside the meeting, but I do think we need to try to reschedule that one, and then I think by next Friday, hopefully we'll be, on track for that meeting.
Okay,
So,
we'll touch base afterwards to come up with another date.
Yes.
Okay,
You don't have to stay on, so I think maybe we can just do that offline, like tomorrow morning.
okay.
Okay.
Treasurer committee?
So we need to get together
Yeah,
and just do this, look at the bond book
the bond
and
book.
figure out the bonds. Deborah, you may, we'll give those numbers to you or do that with you, but that's the thing that one of the previous bookkeepers used to do, but the last time we had some questions about it, and there was actually some, not one that you did, but there were a few inaccuracies, so I think we have this, we have to remember what we did, but we got it down to where we were very accurate. So I think we're going to do that again, and maybe we'll do it with you again just to refresh all of our memories. But that once we have those numbers, then we can break down into the yearly recurring amount that we
And
transfer.
it's really just the reserve accounts, I believe.
It's just the reserve accounts. The other account is already fulfilled.
fulfilled.
Okay,
Okay, moving on to number 8, discussion vote on accounts payable and financial information. That's you, Deborah.
okay. Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
We cut 32 checks from the revenue operating account for a total of $28,692.12. And we had only one extraordinary disbursement, which was to ACWA-JPIA for the employee benefit of $9,041.87. And the only other thing that I wanted to,
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
the
No,
only
go
other
ahead,
thing,
Deborah.
the other thing that I wanted to point out is because of the holiday, the mail is a little behind, and we did not get our Edison bill. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because it is usually a very large balance, and I don't want to have to pay any kind of penalty or late fee on that. So I'd like you to consider maybe a special payment when it comes in.
We'll put that in the motion.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions?
No, I think we covered everything previously.
I entertain a motion. I'll make a motion that we pay our
Well,
bills.
no.
Oh.
I'll make a motion that we pay our bills, and that when the Edison, that we also include the Edison that usually is about $8,000 now, $7,000 to $8,000, that we go ahead and approve the Edison bill and get the 3 signatures and cut a check, and so that it doesn't end up being late.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Director Nyman has made a motion, Director Schoenberg has seconded it. Roll call, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Nyman.
Aye.
Director Schoenberg.
Aye.
Director Kelly. Aye. 5-0. So can Deborah go now? Yep. Good night, Deborah. Good night, Deborah.
Thank you.
Deborah, when I
Have a
get
good,
back from-
have a good
so you know
evening.
what?
And
Go ahead.
I was just saying, have a good evening, and then I'll text you later, Becky and Lisa.
Okay, yeah, if not tonight, tomorrow when I get back from my appointment, I'll answer you in the mid-morning.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Goodbye.
Good night.
Good night. Unfinished business, discussion vote on the Grace Park Lake of the Woods Consolidation Planning Project. A, discussion vote on project timeline. Is that you, Dee?
Yes.
Yeah, what time is it, Becky?
We're discussing the Lake of the Woods project at 6:32. Forgive me, Dee.
Oh, just wanted to make sure I didn't step on somebody. Last time we reviewed it, we needed to put a date on the MOU, the draft connection water service agreement. And so I put a date of December 2023 on that for the draft. And that's the only changes on the timeline. So I can put it up on the screen. It's the same that we looked at last time, except for that.
Yeah, that one just had to be determined, and so we just needed some sort of date.
Okay, discussion vote on new budget adjustment request.
Oh, we haven't.
So that's the one that we need to work on. Do we want to come up with another date now for that, since we need to involve Carlos and Oscar, maybe if Oscar's interested, but definitely Carlos, and then possibly, looks like Joan's not here, but we need to at least, I had sent her, just in case she wanted or had any questions, I had sent her the previous date. Do you have any idea? Because I think, Dee, you were, you needed to make some more adjustments before we could do that, but we really need something for Lawrence next week.
I'm thinking the 14th, the Wednesday. Started looking at the budget that we prepared number of years ago, I think it was 20, I don't know, I can't remember the date. It was back there. And I had made some estimates at the time. This one was, I think 2017. And so that budget needs to be, that's for the project, the $17.3 million project at the time. So we need to update that. I just got some, I'm sorry. Just got,
Stan, we keep hearing your mic. So, I know, Dee, I can't do the 14th at all. Is it possible that we could do it, I mean, it's really, actually, that's cutting it a little close if we do it the day of the state update meeting, because then we're not really gonna be able to talk about it. But I have a bunch of appointments
What
on
about
that day.
the 13th?
I could do the 13th early morning, like at 9.
Can you do the 13th date?
yes,
9 or 10 at the latest. I just have to be in Bakersfield later on.
10's a little easier. I can get some things done and then hit the road and get up there. So, 10 o'clock on the 13th.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Discussion vote on production well property appraisal.
Wait, was that okay with Carlos?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, so you're just gonna come on the phone with us, right? So we just need to set up Tiffany a phone.
Yeah, just send me an invite.
Okay.
You're invited.
Discussion vote on production well property appraisal.
Actually, that's cutting it a little close. We do it the day of the state's update. Dan, is it possible to mute your microphone?
I'm not sure if Stan can hear us.
Can
His,
you mute him?
I can if somebody tells me to.
Go ahead, mute him.
The board, we're asking you, please.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I just don't normally silence people on that.
Okay, so Dee, the discussion vote on production well property appraisals, we already have the appraisal, so, we're not ready yet to do anything with those, correct? We're just gonna hold off on that for the moment?
that's correct. We do have the appraisals, the well number 9 appraisal, French Wainwright is the most expensive. About 31,000 when you add the pipeline easements to that. But the main cost is for the property itself, and that's around 29,000.
How
So
much
these-
time do we have left for the agreement for the Wainwright property? Didn't we have?
Wainwright is 2 years,
2 years, so how long has it been since we signed the agreement?
I believe
we-
a year.
It was from the results of the test program. And after reviewing the results of the test program, we declare that we're interested in purchasing the property, and we have 2 years to do that. So basically,
We have not made that declaration yet, right? That's gonna be D, so we're not there on the agenda yet?
that's correct.
How long are the appraisals good for, Dee?
It's probably, the answer, I guess, is it depends, but maybe for a year. Depends on, what's happening from the standpoint of the inflation and the economy. I would guess maybe a year is probably a good estimate as to its longevity. Then you'd want to, before we actually made an offer, if we stretch it to, say, May of 2023, then I would think that we would want to have an update on the appraisal, just to make sure that nothing has changed. And that shouldn't be too expensive.
I one question about the easement on well 9. Isn't that through multiple properties?
There's,
Yeah.
there's a couple of easements that we're talking about on 9. One is we have about a 15,000 square foot, maybe a little bit more, 24,000 square foot well site on that property. And depending on where we put it, we need an easement through the property, just the same thing as we did with SIA or CNC now. So we need a short easement through that property to get to the edge of the property. And then once we're at the edge of the property, there are 10 other properties that we have to go through to get up to Fraser Mountain Park Road. And so those easements are included in that. They run about $300, I guess, each for that, for each one of those. So $250, I see somewhere at $250. So we have those easements to get to the road, and then a short easement to get to the edge of the property. And I think I told them to estimate maybe 100 feet. And so that gives us some flexibility to put that well site on the property. And we cover that. It's not very expensive, that part. The property itself is pretty expensive. For the other one, it's not that expensive at all. And so I suspect we may be getting into another situation where we end up negotiating, but those are around $2,400 for the well site, the temporary construction easement, and the pipeline easement to get to well 5. So that's pretty low compared to the French Wainwright. But what they are strictured by is the zoning of the property, the current zoning of the property. So I assume that there'll probably be some things that we'll have to do there in negotiations in order to procure that property. Certainly hope it isn't a condemnation, but anyway, that's something we're going to have to face soon, I would think.
Okay, so we aren't going to do a resolution at this point. We really need to just keep this on the agenda and further discuss it as we go.
Correct.
Okay, C, discussion vote on moving forward with the resolution for
Right,
the intention does, they discussed,
Yeah.
right? E, discussion vote on district sphere of influence map for the annexation.
So D, we have those, but they're not up yet. We haven't looked at them at all, me or Director Nyman. And Joan is not on today, so I think, we just need to put those up, and maybe when we meet here next week, we can take a look at those
Right,
too.
and we're waiting for Blair to make his comments on it.
Right, so Blair's gonna comment as to what issues they may have.
Yes. So
Okay.
he's got those, and then we can incorporate that into the map.
And did you finish, I had seen that Joan had asked you a couple more questions about, she was concerned that some properties weren't included, but we had resolved that when we all looked at the map the other, couple weeks ago, right?
Yes, we included, there was a property just a little bit to the west of where we had initially drawn the line. And so we incorporated that, and can't remember the other one, but
I just saw an email with, I thought it was a more recent email, but maybe not. So we can just wait till we should just notify her if we go back over that once you hear from Blair.
Yes, I think it might have been, maybe we were talking about some of the properties in Ventura County. And we thought that while it was possible to do, it adds a lot of complexity. And so, I think Joan's comment at the time was, we really don't need to worry about that at this time. But anyway, yeah, well, I think once we get together and we look at the map and we have Blair's comments, then we can modify the map.
Okay. Discussion vote on project municipal service review, quote, draft MSR, data collection, scope of work, and LAFCO.
So really, that can't go move forward till we hear from Blair, correct?
Correct. And I've, been in contact with Stanley Hoffman, and they're ready to put things together as soon as they know exactly what our map's going to cover. And then Ravish will, if he needs to change his budget, he'll propose something else. I kind of doubt there'll be much of a change, but we'll see. So I've been in contact with him, and our budget won't change either. And so, we're just kind of waiting to get the final word from both entities and LAFCO, and then we'll start down the road with the MSR.
Okay,
And that's what is planning to be done by November, D, is that what we have?
I think I said December. Let me look at my schedule here. The MSR, December 2022.
Okay.
discussion vote on early drilling of well 8. Director Schoenberg, do you have something to say?
No, my arm's just up because it's bothering me. Yeah, we're not ready to move forward on 8 because
We need more information.
we need more information.
Okay. Discussion vote on Lake of the Woods projects and consolidation.
That was just on there for,
That's on there for Joan and Pam
Okay.
and Stan, Mary, et cetera.
Discussion vote on claims and payouts.
No, I mean, do they have anything? Do you guys have anything?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nothing to report right now. It's with DFA, the final budget approval, and we can't award the bid until they approve it.
Hey.
Okay.
Not feeling good.
Discussion vote on claims and payouts.
So we won't really have that yet, right, Carlos, until next week? You just pull it together?
It'll be
still?
it'll be next week, for the state planning meeting. However, right now, Lawrence is going over claim, what was the last one we turned in, 20? 21? 21? Yeah, he's going over claim 21, and he's asking questions about the appraisal costs. The numbers aren't adding up, so we'll have to take a look at that and see what's going on.
Let me respond to that because it was a mistake that I made, for crying out loud. I multiplied 10 times 2,000 and got 10,000, and it is 10,000, but it should have been 10 times 1,000, and that would have been the $10,000, and that's for the appraisals for the 10 properties that we were talking about that we have to cross for well number 9. And I just sent an email back. I don't know whether you got it, Carlos, or not, but I said,
I haven't seen it yet, D, because he had asked you to clarify.
I missed that. And so I sent an email to Valbridge and I said, we need to make sure the math is right on that. So they're going to send an update on the update tomorrow.
So an updated invoice?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we need to get that so we can get that submitted.
Soon as I get it from Valbridge, I'll shoot it out to everybody, including you, Carlos. And
When did you respond to him, D? Because I just saw Lawrence's where he was asking you to clarify.
about an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago, right? Pretty much after I saw his comment, I responded and said, my mistake. I didn't catch
I
it.
have it, 519. You're on it.
Okay, I see it. On it, buddy. Oh, it says thank you, Dee.
Oh, wait, yeah, you're on it. We're CC, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, where it says thank you, Dee.
okay.
Okay. Discussion vote update on FCCUP meter replacement project and emergency well supply project. A, discussion vote update on drilling well 7.
Well, we're still trying to get a driller, and we haven't heard anything from Unified as, respecting any change in budget. We'll have a further conversation with them next week and just make sure that we're on track. And Curtis is estimating probably about a month to get a driller online or on site. So that's where it is.
So the end of October?
Maybe the beginning of October. I've got my fingers it'll depend on, it'll depend on the driller.
Okay.
Wait, but it's the same driller, Bakersfield, right? But it's just whether they can get up here or not?
When they get tweaked in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Lisa.
I'm sorry, no, it's the next item.
B, discussion vote on access easement through CMC property.
So did we get did we get that question answered by Alan about the wet
Alan said he
signature?
wasn't concerned about wet signatures.
Okay, so that's a done deal, but were we supposed to?
We sent the check, the other day Tiffany sent a certified mail, so we got the check for the amount, we sent that out, along with a copy of
the signed agreement.
of Becky signing it, and I guess, we haven't gotten anything back from their side yet, but Alan seems to be handling it and said he wasn't concerned.
Okay, so we need to,
Okay, can you fill it in?
we need to fill in.
The rest of the board,
Oh,
please?
yeah.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
please.
we're not privy to some of this information.
Right, I'll make a, can I make an?
Okay, no, not yet.
Oh, okay. Don't call me.
Well,
Okay.
you said you
I know, we get it,
and
we were getting
Spit it
to it,
out.
so calm
Spit it
down.
out.
You're gonna,
Yeah, they didn't have enough time for, okay, so go ahead.
so basically, we had a phone call with Dee and our attorney, and Johnny, and Director Schoenberg and myself, and, the attorney had talked to their attorney, and they were, actually waiting for, they were negotiating for more money, and, they basically requested $3,000. And at that time, when we talked to the attorney, there was, because of the time restraints of getting the access to it, Director Schoenberg and myself, Alan said it would be okay for us to make that decision, and we
You need to vote on it
we
after
still
the
need to
fact.
vote on it after the fact, but we approved $3,000.
And Alan suggested, he recommended
for us to do that, and,
And it's not-
because it would be cheaper than us going, not only time, but also cheaper for us than to go to court to do eminent domain on this issue.
And it's not an easement, it's just a license as they were asking for, so it's, not a temporary easement. They were really concerned about, any of that. So it's just a license. It allows us to go onto the property. It's up to 3 months. And
Once we start.
we couldn't say like they kind of wanted $1,000 per month. We couldn't really do that because that's not something as a board that we can do like a monthly agreement, so that's why it says 3,000, because they were under the understanding when we said 1,000, that it was actually 1,000 for every 30 days.
And Alan said we would far exceed that $3,000 in litigation going the other way that we were gonna have to do, so that's why you recommended that we make that decision, because it's cheaper.
It was my understanding that they asked for 9,000, right? 3,000
No.
a day, and you guys brought it down?
No, that's not correct.
That's not correct?
No, that's not correct. They asked for 5,000, originally, and it didn't have to do with a day. I don't know where they got their figures. Then they kind of, I think the big thing was that they were kind of, basing it on every 30 days was my understanding from, we never talked directly to them, but my understanding was they kind of were thinking in terms of every 30 days. We're anticipating maybe 60 days, but it could go as long as 90 days, so we put 90 days on the license agreement. And then, so I think in their minds, they broke it down to $1,000 like every 30 days, but we couldn't do that. We just had to do a lump sum.
A lump sum, yeah.
And you guys, Director Garcia?
Is there any, addition, in case we go over 90 days?
Yeah, there is on the license agreement, it does say that it doesn't say up to 90 days, it says as long as it takes, but it says most likely it was 90 days, right, or less.
So then we gotta renegotiate once it goes over 90 days?
I would have to, no,
Well,
the
actually,
license is not.
I don't think Dee has any, thought that it would go over 90 days.
Okay, good.
Start drilling, and they worded it where it didn't start until the driller started.
Yeah, the
Okay.
actual amount of time is when the driller's on site. So I
Goes
think-
up with his rig.
I think we're fine unless there was some kind of weather-related thing or something like that, which hopefully if we're starting in
No act of
October.
God clause or anything in there?
Yeah, or whatever, hopefully not.
Trust me, when that drilling rig hits there, they're gonna do everything they can to finish that well, but they're not gonna wanna pull it back out, come back.
Yeah, they're busy, we're having trouble just getting them at this point, right, so.
So, yeah, I guess you guys need to vote on that, huh?
So, we said, but I think we need, and we don't have Alan here to say the wording or anything, but I believe the board just needs to, we need to abstain, and the board just needs to affirm our decision after the fact. If you don't affirm the decision, then I don't know, we gotta go back to the attorney.
Check's already went out, right?
Yeah, checks in the mail.
And we always gotta rely on our attorney ultimately.
Well,
I mean, why?
And if he says that we're saving a bunch of money to not litigate, which we were determined you guys voted to litigate, so that means that you potentially were approving $10,000 or whatever it was gonna cost to litigate. They actually saved money by choosing to tap out early.
What are you shaking your head for?
because I don't agree with that.
You don't think it would cost more money to litigate?
It may, but I do not agree with, we gave them permission to non-litigate. Yes, we told Alan that he just go for it and go to court.
Okay, let me put it this way, it would have taken a lot longer too, and we wouldn't be having the drillers come in.
Yeah, Alan basically broke it down to us that we didn't really have a lot of, leeway on this, and if we could decide to go litigate, but not only would we probably it would probably cost more for the Unified, because we would have to redo the bid, which we still don't know exactly if that's gonna be the same price or not, we're hoping it is. We would have issues because we're gonna run into winter. We would have all kinds of issues. So I know that you guys are shaking your heads, but I think if you were in the position we were in, you would have said exactly the same thing. I don't understand why there's an issue.
The comment that I'm gonna make is we have been putting this off and putting it off and going in circles, and at this point, the time that it was gonna take them to go to court, and the time that, the more money, it was the logical decision to do for the community. because we need to get on this property and we need to get this well drilled.
And I,
got misinformation from our attorney to start with, because in the original license agreement that they sent to us, that he read, lined out, and said all kinds of stuff, that we could not pay them more than what we agreed with. Then, and he said that there's statutes that we cannot pay them.
there are,
But he addressed that. He addressed that and said that $3,000 isn't so far over the estimate that it was gonna be a problem.
Wait, it was $109 or $190.
no, it wasn't.
That's what
The original
thing, the original,
If we went to court.
no.
Yes, yes,
Changes a
yes.
bit on the drilling, I guarantee you.
So then we went 500, and then all of a sudden it was 1,000, and now all of a sudden it's 3,000.
Okay, I'm gonna just say that if you guys have an issue with the attorney and the ad hoc, then maybe we need a different attorney and a different ad hoc, because I don't understand why you're squabbling over a small amount of money. It would have cost this community a great deal more money if we hadn't made that decision. Our attorney made that very clear to us. I don't think he was trying to deceive us. I think that he's a very competent attorney. I think that he was doing the best he could. He's been really frustrated with us. He's been trying to keep our costs down in this constant negotiation with them. And, the issue isn't with our attorney or the ad hoc. The issue is with,
I'm in a hard spot.
yeah,
Had to make a tough choice because.
both property owners had some issues, and I think they're gonna continue to, who knows? But, I just think that if we had gone, it was like for me, it was a no-brainer. Like, why would I wanna spend this community's money to go to court over, a couple $1,000 difference, when it would cost thousands and thousands and thousands more to go to court? So, but I'm gonna, if you feel like I'm not competent to make that decision, then I feel like I don't wanna, then maybe you guys should be on the ad hoc.
I'm just concerned about us being a show of power instead of
Very weak. We're very weak to them.
I feel.
Well, the next time, we're probably gonna have to do eminent domain.
This is not something to be discussed here.
Right. Yeah.
So why are you discussing that?
But anyway, the fact is, we had to do it. Everybody that was part of that conversation agreed with it had to move forward. It's over something that's just an access, isn't a stand that we had to draw a line in the sand, and at any cost, no matter how much the well drilling goes up or how much the tree
Yeah, it's
goes,
just so we could
it's
drive it
not that
just as
decision
well
that we're
done.
in right now. We just need to drive a drilling rig across their property, and if it costs $3,000 to save a bunch of money, it's well worth the money.
I think
Down the road, we just have to make a stand.
$1,000 a month is not unreasonable when we offered them $1,000. I know you're saying he said 500 at first, then there was negotiation. He had explained that there was gonna be negotiation, then we offered 1,000. They, for whatever reason, understood that to be $1,000 for every month we were on the property. The drilling rig's gonna be on the property. So their issue was that as long as we have that rig and all this stuff going on in their property, and we're putting water on their property and the other things that we need to do, it's not unreasonable for them to ask for a certain amount. But we can't pay a monthly fee. That's not something that, as a water company, we can do. So that's why it was just,
It's really a mute.
I don't know, but I
We've already
kind
sent
of,
the check and we've already signed the agreement.
but they still need to affirm it. So if they don't affirm it, then I'm not sure. We need to go back to the attorney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Besides that point, the issue really comes down to the time restraint of us getting the approval so that we can get on the property and get this well drilled. And if we didn't do this, then you're talking probably another month or two of going to court.
3 or 4, 5.
However long it takes for besides the cost of the attorney, then you're looking at 1 or 2 months, 3 months down the road, then the driller definitely is gonna come back and say, this bid is no longer valid, and we're gonna raise the cost.
And we keep forgetting about the fact that well 5
Might go out at any moment.
should have failed already.
Right.
And
Oh, that's great. Thank God for that every day.
well, I'm just saying, it's still there. If this does get set back 6 months, who knows if it's gonna last? Then we're in a world of hurt.
I made a vote with the conscience of, I believe, with the conscience of this community, because I don't think this community wanted us to mess around, not get a well, or if we get a well, pay hundreds of thousands of dollars more because we have to go out to bid again, and pay who knows how much to go to court. Yeah, we would win, but do we really wanna, raise their bills again? I don't. So, in my conscience, I think I made the right decision. If you don't feel that, I will step down from the ad hoc.
Dr. Garcia?
I'd like to move that we, approve the negotiations as stated here with a $3,000 fee to access the PNC property.
Can you second that?
In good conscience? I don't know. I mean, I'll have to. I mean, I have to do it. I understand that. But I do it under distress. How's that?
Fine, that works.
Will you second it?
Okay,
I have to.
motion has been made by Director Garcia and seconded by Director Kelling. Roll call of Director
What was the motion exactly?
To approve the negotiations that you guys had done by the ad hoc committee and agree on
After the fact, affirm that was,
the $3,000 fee.
yeah, okay.
Aye.
Nyman,
Abstain.
Ellenberg,
Abstain.
Director Kelling,
I have to say aye, 'cause
Director Gibson is an aye because I want to support the board that I'm part of, and I want to see this project move. So this motion has been passed, 3-0 to abstention. Discussion vote on the status of meter project budget and requesting additional funding.
I don't think we're quite at that stage until we, I believe we have to push
Carry that over.
the bid, the meters go out to bid so we know how much money we have to request, right, Dee?
Yeah, we're on the street with plans right now. Bids are due on the 13th of October, so we're gonna find out, in about a month, what that project is gonna be, and then if we want to, if we will need to adjust the grant funding, probably do some backfilling with our bridge loan, but we'll know where we stand. Not only that, we'll know where we stand on well 7. We'll have a better picture, I'll say. And so when we talk to Lawrence, we'll have some good numbers that we can use to backfill the difference between the funding that was previously approved and the funding that we're going to need.
Okay, any comments?
just glad I'm out on the street.
I just want to clarify that the bridge loan is intended to pay costs already incurred to contractors, not necessarily to backfill.
Right, but I think what Dee meant is that we have this bridge loan to pay out as we go along for the well, and then we'll have a better idea of the actual cost of the well once we move forward a little bit, and then any money that still needs to be made up for, if we've paid off, if the state by then has paid off that well, that we should be able to borrow again because we will have paid it, we should be able to turn around and borrow from that, we're hoping, borrow from that again, and then at some point, but it might take like 6 months or something or more, probably more, we need to apply for the additional funding. So it's not backfill, it's, I think that was just a choice of words that maybe wasn't the best choice of words, but it's to it's to keep us going, if we can pay off, if the state's fast enough in paying the well. If it's not, then I'm not sure, we'll have to figure something else out, but we're hoping that we're able to kind of stay ahead, get the contractors paid, have the state pay us, or pay off the amounts that are in the actual budget, and then we're able to pay back that bridge loan, and then we're able to borrow from it again until we finally get the approval for more money from the state for the rest of the meters.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and forgive me for my choice of words. What I was saying, it reminds me of a quote by, you guys remember Alan Greenspan, who was Fed chairman many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
and talk about double speak and really the issue with understanding the English language. His quote was, see if you can follow this. Took me a while to understand it, but his quote was, I know that you believe you understand what you think I said, but I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is not what I meant. Perfect government double speak. But anyway, so yeah, the state, the bridge loan would be pay as we go. And, so we'll know, and at that time, if we, and Johnny, I know you're concerned about the meter boxes. If that's the case, then we'll add those into the additional funding that we need. And so, I think this is the first step in getting going. We're going to have a number on the table, and then we can decide if that's not enough budget, it is enough budget, we need more, then we'll have to backfill with more. And backfill with state funding that we would get probably 6 months later. But the bridge loan hopefully would pay all that.
What he's talking about is that the estimate at the beginning of the project was we would have to replace 300 meter boxes. When I was going over the plans and I seen what was going out to bid, I think we'll need more like 900 meter boxes, because most of our boxes are plastic, unlike most water companies. So that was my concern. And one of the thoughts was that the lid that holds the antenna could be retrofitted into our plastic boxes, which we don't know yet if that'll work. That would save a bunch of money. Or if we have to ask for more money for the concrete meter boxes to be replaced. So that's what you were just talking about right now.
Okay, so
Can I say something? I know it's not on here, but I'm afraid I'll forget by the end of the meeting. But I'd like to put on the agenda that because of that whole discussion that happened on B, I don't feel okay with any further decisions made, and I would like to have a vote on the next agenda to pay the attorney, if that's what we have to do to be at the whole board meeting, rather than, doing something outside of the board meeting. Even if we have to have a special meeting, it's still going to cost the community less if it's a decision like we had to make, and it's going to keep the board from being contentious.
Okay.
I agree, Lisa, and just sitting on the outside.
So it would be discuss a vote on if there's any decisions that need to be made outside of a board meeting that are critical like this, that we have can't be an emergency, but that we have a special meeting.
Yeah.
And that we have all the directors present at that meeting to make the vote.
Okay.
But we need to vote on that.
In that situation, it would have been an emergency, right? Because it's time critical and new information.
I think it's still not an emergency.
Oh, okay.
I think it's still a special meeting, which you
Kind of
only,
like failing price.
you only need a day for a special meeting, but I think that, it was said at the previous board meeting to that we didn't want to do a special meeting for that, but I think it's critical that, because I feel extremely uncomfortable at this point without having a special meeting. I'll put it that way.
And I think it
Or
needs to
having
be
someone
done.
else be on the project committee,
Thank you for, sorry,
project ad hoc.
I was trying to get it into it.
Needs to be done right away.
Huh?
It needs to be done right away.
Right, but we can, but like, this is gonna come up again. I'm sure that there'll be some other issue with some other property owner that has to do with easements or whatever, and, I think, you know, with all these things that we're gonna be doing, and I think it would just be better, anyway, I'm off agenda, but I think it needs to be an agenda item, and it needs to be a special meeting, and if we have to pay $500 for a special meeting,
Okay,
to alleviate
we've already
stuff,
said it,
better,
so,
yeah.
so if we have to discuss it on the next agenda.
Great, moving on, discussion vote on the bridge loan for the meter replacement.
So updates for the bridge loan. I know right now they're revising their state agreement format that they have, self-help and the state, the agreement format that they send out to communities that they apply for a bridge loan. And as far as the commitment letter, it was my understanding late last week that was going to be mailed out to you guys, and I know I spoke to Tiffany today, and you guys haven't received it. So I'll continue to follow up with my manager and director to see if they can update me as to when or if they've already sent out that commitment letter via mail.
Okay. Discussion vote on going out to bid for the meter replacement.
We've already done that.
That's gone out.
Already done? F, discussion vote on claims and payouts. Are there any, Carlos?
The claim.
That's all.
Oh, sorry.
Claim number 6 has just gone out to the state for approval to refund. Tiffany mentioned to me that the check for claim 5 has already been received. So then have you guys received checks for claim 4 and 3 as well?
Oh, yeah.
So my only, it's a question, because I know that you guys were just talking about the attorney, so fresh in my mind, I know there was some previous costs, charges from the attorney that we saw on the invoice for claim number 6. Is that like what's owed to the attorney from claim number 5? If that makes any sense?
I think that's just the way that they do things, Oscar, and we have to be really careful about that, because in the past, they've accidentally double billed us multiple times, and I think it's just the way they carry over monies that have already been paid sometimes, because they miss, there's some sort of something that happens between us and their billing department where we pay it in, like, they've sent out one bill, then we pay it, and they've already, like, gotten the next bill ready, and so they say what was due, what we've already paid, but they still call it past due. So
okay,
I think
I just wanted to ask.
This has been going on for a while. I think it's just the way their billing department works, because they have a tendency to always put the previous bill with the new bill. Right, Tiffany? Am I?
No, yeah, they always state that, and then you have to look in there and find current amount billed and pull that out. But we've been billing or charging the claims correctly. It just looks like we haven't paid it even though we have.
Right, so that one I think we had paid for sure, Oscar. It just sort of crossed. So we pulled that out, right? I recall that when we had that discussion at the state update meeting, that we just agreed to pull out the extra because it had already been paid.
And then next meeting, we'll pay claim 5. The attorney.
Okay. I haven't, do we have invoices yet for claim 7?
No,
For
you
this
know, I
next one?
haven't gotten any Young Woolgers or any Jasper invoices for anything yet this month. I'm expecting them to come in next week, probably.
But we definitely
Okay.
had some additional meetings with our attorney, a few, so you're definitely gonna get those bills for 7.
Okay, so then I'll be preparing Claim 7, have a draft for it for the ad hoc meeting next week.
I'll send them as soon as I get them.
So Dee, you're gonna follow up with your billing person to make sure that any charges are put out for 7?
Yes, we went over the billings this morning and, they should be going out, tomorrow or the next day or Monday.
Okay, sorry. Number 11, discussion vote on pipeline replacement project A. Discussion vote update on potholing and mapping.
We've, finished, Summit and the whole Manita, North End, Oregon, Laurel, trail sections that I wanted to get done. Now we're on Elm. I'm really excited about the way they're doing it, the way Dee's having them do it, because every valve that they find and every pipe that they find, they triangulate with multiple measurements from fixed objects from different areas. We're finding not only our pipes, but the gas lines, so then when they draw the plans, we have gas piping as well, which will really help us in the future. Then they're gonna come back and have the surveyor take GPS coordinates from those measurements. So we'll have measurements and GPS coordinates for valve cans and for pipes and for, so it's really gonna help us immensely in the future. It's gonna be the best set of as-built I've seen here by far, because it's gonna have so much information on it. So I like the fact that it's taken from multiple fixed points, like 3 different points of reference, so you just measure out, you know right where the valve is and the piping. So I'm pretty excited about how it's going. Hopefully, next week we can finish Elm, and then Dee will have an update on the budget on if we have enough money to go somewhere else, start potholing, or if that will be the section that we focus on.
That's still the TA budget, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, wasn't that 289,000 covered all the potholing and mapping, I thought?
No, not for the whole town. It's the cost nowadays is gonna far exceed that if we wanted to do the whole town. And the grant money isn't gonna cover replacing much, so he's gonna have to weigh, he can chime in with this, he's gonna have to weigh the budget to pothole and map and still have enough to actually do the work for that section. So we're not losing mainline replacement just because we want to pothole the whole town at this time. We can certainly go about getting another grant, like Dave Warner was saying, to do more of what we need to do, bigger areas. Dave says they still have a bunch of money. And they have safer money that he also told me about that is more related like to the nitrogen analyzer and stuff.
Director Schottenberg?
Well, my understanding is right now, this potholing and mapping is all off of the TA funding, correct? And so do we have any idea, are you gonna bring it to the board, like what's been spent so far, or what you're spending as you go along? Because I have not a clue. I don't know what roads you've done. Well, I do just from what Johnny's just said. I don't know what we've spent on the roads. I don't know any of that stuff. So even though it's not passing through us, it's passing through the TA funds, through self-help. But in the past, we always sort of brought that up at this meeting.
He hasn't got a bill yet from Miles. That's why that's passed on to you. He's been waiting for the billing for the prior month, and then he'll know where we stand.
Okay, but the question, okay, here's the question that
He would like to chime in on it here real quick.
Well, Dee, what I have a question on is because originally I had the understanding that the 289,000 covered the whole town. So I understand that there's been significant cost increase, but how much more could that be? It can't be more than another couple $100,000.
It can be a lot. This terrain that these guys are working in is full of rocks. They're discovering pipelines that nobody even knew about. They're discovering valves that have not been mapped. Every pothole that they do is an exploration. It is much more difficult than I ever dreamed it would be. The risk in doing it, they're doing it with vacuum excavation, rather than just taking a backhoe there and digging a trench. The reason that we're using the vacuum excavation is because of the high risk that we're looking at. If we happen to break one of these active water lines, and we really don't know which are active, we don't know which are charged and which are not. And if we break them, the liability to the district and of course to the contractor and everybody else with damages to housing and lots could be in the hundreds of thousands. So we're using a very careful method, safe method to find these pipes. So it's slower, but got our fingers crossed, we're not going to fail any pipelines. So it won't go as far as we thought. I don't know how far we're going to be able to get until I get the bill, and we're going to know, pretty much what the last month covered for us. But we are taking, I think, into account the highest risk areas in the district for property damage and damage to people, for that matter.
I would like to add to that too. Part of the problem is my input on it too. What happened initially was the initial quote that we got a few years ago for potholing was we would just have potholes each end of the street. But continually, I show up on the site and we think that we have it figured out, and then I think, this is Fraser Park, everything's wrong. So I'll say, no, we need to spend more time here. Instead of spending 3 hours on one corner, we're spending 2 days on a corner or 3 days because, for example, we continually find things like, okay, we found the pipe and it looks like it runs down Oregon. You see a T, you see a restrained C900, it's right in line with where we think it's at. I don't know, let's go ahead and check a little more. And we go 5 feet away, there's another valve that's buried and it's flanged off. So that means that the pipe doesn't go down there. Happening every place we've been, there's just been such weird plumbing that if we just skip through it real quick and say, okay, we want to get everything potholed, we're going to miss it and we're going to pay for it in the change orders, for sure. There's already going to be change orders because we can't follow the pipe from beginning to end. But we're finding things that weren't supposed to be in the street, things that say that they're a pipe actually are flying planched off. There's pipes that have been cut and abandoned but still charged. There's just so many things that we're finding that I've been pushing the whole time because Dee's wanted to go faster to get more done. But I have to make sure before we move to the next corner that we know what's going on there. And more often than not, we find out that it was good that we stayed there longer to plan it. So it is costing more to pothole, but there's no way anybody could have foreseen this because, as you know, we've never had the as-built. They never kept up on anything. It's just been a nightmare. And I'm there most of my day, or at least going back every hour or two and looking and seeing what's going on. And every time you're there, people that have 20 years of experience are sitting there going, wow, why would they do this? Well, there's no reason to do it like that. They just did.
So in light of that, I think it's probably really important that we talk next week to Lawrence and explain that because that $289,000, yeah, it's no way gonna do it if that's what we're doing and we're spending 2 to 3 days on a single.
And I'd like to show you
and I'm okay with that because we've never had maps. I just think that the issue is,
let the state know.
yeah, the issue is that the state needs to probably help us a lot more because there's no way that we're gonna, because, the whole project's like, what, 9 million or whatever, 10?
It's 9.8.
9.8 million, but we're not gonna be able to, there's no way we're gonna be able to have this project budget accurate for enough places. Like, we wanna at least cover, like, not just like 4 streets or something,
Well, no,
like,
see, that's the thing, until he can start looking at it and come up with a cost estimate, I personally feel like just the areas that are the worst right now, which is the whole area, can't really see, but the whole area from Los Padres all the way up, Laurel,
Manita,
Oregon, Oakmont, Manita, North End all the way up, and then all of Summit down to Pico, and then the part of Elm that has to be replaced. I'm feeling like the way everything costs, I don't know that we're gonna have a bunch of extra money in that 9.8 grand. But that would be the area that has the highest risk of failures, which we've proven already, because it's washed out everybody's house. Got the most steel pipe, and we determined that even the PVC in that area that I was happy that we found, it was all put in wrong. When it was put in wrong. I mean, when it was put in, they're all laying on rocks, big rocks, there's rocks right on top of the pipes, none of the fittings are wrapped with plastic like they're supposed to, so we can't even save money by reusing it. So until he could look at it and say, okay, I think we have enough money to go ahead and do another section of town as well for that $9 million, because after mapping, potholing and stuff, we're not gonna have 9.8, obviously. Say we have $9 million, how far is that $9 million gonna go? I think that the length of North End and all those trails and Summit is a lot of footage. So, he is gonna update us on that, but as soon as he gets a better grasp, we may find out that we only have enough to do the worst sections on that side and not deal with the rest of the worst sections.
but I think, that the TA funds, like, that's what the TA funds were supposed to be for that potholing and mapping, and so, we weren't supposed to take money out of the project budget for additional potholing and mapping. We were supposed to be doing the project budget for actually replacing main lines. So isn't that something that we wanna, like, explain to Lawrence that this is what we're finding and that we need to rethink it? And, because I just feel like if they have other money that they're able to give through the technical assistance funds, that's gonna be more realistic than, because we have to know a certain amount before we're not gonna be able to give them a project budget unless we've done the potholing and mapping. So, I mean, if you're saying it's only gonna be this one section, then I think he needs to understand that, but I don't think that they were planning on us potholing and mapping out of the project budget.
Let me kind of bring up to speed a little bit about what this is about. The 9 million is generated from an estimate to replace 24,000 feet of pipe. 24,000, not the entire district. And so
we realize.
the effort is to cover as much of that 24,000 feet as we can. And we know that once we get that done, we're looking at the most high-risk areas in the district to try to alleviate that risk much as we can with the money that we have. And so that's why, of course, we're concentrating in this particular area. When we get out of this area, we'll go across the street and look at some of the other areas that are high risk, maybe not quite as high, but certainly higher risk than what we'd than maybe other areas that have newer pipe. So these are TA funds. They're administered by self-help. And once we have an idea, I think we got to figure out where we are after the first month and see what, we're looking in a very difficult area right now. If we get through that area and get into some other areas, we actually may make better progress. But really, in this particular area, these guys are digging up rocks with the vacuum excavator that are bigger than the diameter of the pipe that's sucking them out. This area is certainly very difficult. So let's get this first month out of the way, take a look at what we've got done, what we need to do, and take a look at the budget, match it up against what we think this thing will, how will end up. And maybe we'll need a little bit more funding to actually do the potholing in some of the other areas. Right now, I don't have a number for you because I haven't received a bill, but we'll be putting that together. And certainly the district is going to be appraised of all of this when we get to a point where we can actually put some numbers on paper.
Mr. Nyman?
Yeah, I understand that. I just know that when we go, we need to, number one, we need to tell Lawrence, I think at the next meeting, we just need to make a phrase to him that what we're doing and that it's gonna cost extra money and that we don't know what the costs are, because the first thing he's gonna say to you is, well, how much are you gonna get done for that $289,000?
But, and that's what I'm saying, I think we need to Google Map measurements of the area that we've already potholed.
No, but I'm talking about, wait a second, listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is just for potholing and mapping. This has nothing to do with how much we're gonna be able to do.
Come out of 9.8? Oh, okay, that's good then, good to know.
Because at 9.8, we were gonna do 289, we were gonna do potholing and mapping, and then we're gonna do design, and then we could do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Right, right, well, the way it works is that the TA funds are before you even get the project money. In order to get the project money, we have to have a budget, we have to have draft plans and specs, we have to have an application. We did the preliminary application, but we didn't, that's all we did. We just have this really preliminary application, so.
So the more money they'll give us for potholing now, the farther out we can plan.
The more we'll understand what we can actually do with that money, and so we'll apply correctly.
1, 2, 3, 4, and see, that's the thing, because originally, the understanding we were gonna do all this potholing and mapping, and so in order for us to get specs and plans, of course, we have to have the potholing and mapping done.
And engineering will be done already when we go out for more.
It has to be done, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for clarifying for me. I thought it was coming out, I thought the TA funds were coming out of the original grant, but. So as soon as Dee gives it to me or sends it out to us, I'll make sure everybody sees it.
Yeah, no, the state contracts with places like self-help, and they have a pool of money that they can allocate for various things, and then we just have to get their okay to be able to do that, so.
The way we're moving now, I think it's gonna cost 3 times as much money to pottle.
Well,
Which would be nice if they gave it to us, that'd be
But
awesome.
that's the truth, so we need to tell them.
Yeah, we're finding out.
Okay.
One comment,
Wait, Carlos?
yeah, one comment. Did Lawrence specifically say that this TA funding was gonna be on top of the 9.8 million?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know that it's on top of it.
I understand that it's separate funding, just like when we got the planning grant, there's some stuff that gets paid to, okay, so like right now with the planning grant, there's things that get paid within the budget of the planning grant, and there's other stuff that was covered by TA funds that is not in the budget of the planning grant. It's completely outside of that, just like when we got IRWIMP money, that was outside of the pre-planning grant. So to my understanding, it's completely separate from that 9 million, that the state contracts with you guys for a certain amount of money for a whole bunch of different projects, and then they allow whatever, they allow us to be able to use some of that to pre-work on stuff. It's not my understanding that then gets returned through the project
Okay,
funding.
that's something that we need to clarify at the state planning meeting for sure. That way we're not guesstimating.
Okay, because it's never worked that way in the past, but yes, let's make sure that that's
Because
the case.
Because I do know that.
How would it be coming out of the 9 million if we haven't even gotten the 9 million? We don't even have an approved application yet.
Well, the thing is that I know that with that $9.8 million grant, you were still gonna have to do all the planning and stuff, design first.
Yes,
So that's why I'm asking, but we
and
just need to
that's not
clarify.
in the TA funds that I know of. That's the planning and design, although sometimes they've allowed for TA funds to pay for planning and design as well. But my understanding is that's part of that, that we can maybe do initial planning and design, but the final designs and stuff are part of the actual budget that you put in for the project.
That's right, Lisa. It's, on the agreement, it actually states, Project 3, which is this, all of this that we're talking about, quoting from the grant, or the agreement rather, Project 3 includes the field research, potholing, engineering design, and eventual construction of an estimated 24,000 linear feet of pipelines and associated appurtenance to replace old and leaky water system pipelines that are losing much needed water during the drought. DWR's letter of commitment approved funding not to exceed $9.85 million for costs incurred between August 11, 2021 and August 30, 2023. So your analysis is correct. The entire project is $9.85 million, including the potholing and the design.
Okay, so then that is not correct what I said. Then that means the potholing TA funds are gonna come out of that 9.8 million, even though they're giving them currently.
That's correct.
That wasn't my understanding, so my understanding is wrong.
And that's why we need to clarify with Lawrence, but that's what I thought. Like Dee said right now, that the entire project cannot exceed the 9.8, so we need to clarify.
Okay, so then the money they gave you is just initial money that's before we ever get approved for the 9.8, but it's gonna be within the 9.8 budget. So somehow they're gonna incorporate these TA funds, which they haven't done in the past. Somehow they're gonna incorporate that in the budget. Because that's not how it works before. In the past, when we've had TA funds, when we were doing all the stuff with Dave Warner, it's separate. Like, so is IRWIMP or anything else that it's like separate funding.
See, I'm not 100% sure it's gonna be separate funding or the same, so that's why we just need to clarify.
Yeah, not from what Dee just read, it sounds like it's the same.
Well, we'll have to clarify.
Okay, meeting with Lawrence, right?
And then, I think Dee has submitted like 2 invoices. So I'll include those in the state planning meeting agenda, so you guys can see what, anytime I get invoices, I'll include them in the state planning meeting, so you guys can see what's been charged to date.
Okay, discussion vote on the draft project plan.
So we can't do any of that until the potholing and mapping's further along.
Okay.
So C
Same with
or,
D too?
yeah, same with D.
Okay, moving on to number 12, discussion vote update on Cal OES Community Power Resiliency Allocation to Special Districts Grant. Can we let?
And what time is it right now?
43.
At 7:43, and.
Yeah, so Carlos and Oscar, unless they have,
Thank you, Carlos and Oscar.
unless you guys have anything else that we didn't address.
Okay.
No, not on my end. You guys have a good night.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, Carlos.
A, discussion vote update on purchasing the generators.
You know that we've already ordered them, we're just waiting for them to start coming through. Tiffany could add to it, but I think at some point, we're gonna have to make a payment towards them, right? But hopefully we'll get some of the orders in payment.
Oh, yeah.
February 28th, is when we have to make the final, that's the drop dead, date. And we have to have the money spent by February 28th. So what we're thinking, and Johnny, you can kind of chime in on this, but what Curtis and I are thinking is that, they're telling us that we should be able to get 5 out of the 6 generators by the end of the week of the year. And so if that indeed is the case, and they do deliver on that, then that gives us, more confidence in paying ahead prior to February 28th. But we really have to see how they produce. But when we look at it, either we spend the money and we pay ahead, trusting that these guys are going to do what they said they'll do, or we lose the money.
No, I'm not trusting these people, Dean.
We've already paid ahead quite a bit.
If most of them get in here by the end of the year, and there's only like one or whatever that has a delivery delay or something, then we'll be confident. But we're not gonna give them the money until we've gotten, and most of the generators we get, the dates of the generators are supposed to be here before that time. So if they come like they're supposed to, we'll already have most of them sitting in the yard when it comes time to pay the money, so we can meet that deadline.
And that's coming with power banks too.
Yeah, the load thing, yeah.
But how much we've already paid is like half, right?
I don't think we paid half. Jimmy figured out one time, I forget
Did
now.
one hundred sixty
Yeah, we
thousand
paid
or
a
something?
deposit of,
And it was 280, so
289.
That's supposed to happen.
that's,
so we'll just have to keep track of it, and towards December, because that'll still give us almost 2 months to decide
it
what
would be
to do.
140, it's over
We'll
now.
start knowing by the first of the year what we have to decide on, so we ain't gonna be able to make a decision tonight till that happens.
Okay. Then discussion vote on the engineering and design.
Anything.
Okay. Number 13, discussion vote on district water tank replacement. A, discussion vote update on the project work.
Well, that's me, I guess, again, and we've already come up and topoed the site. We've measured everything. We're developing the site plans. We think that probably in about 2 weeks, we'll be able to produce a draft set of plans. In 4 weeks, we should be 90% done with the plans. And so we have our geotechnical folks on board. I'm not sure exactly what their timing is, but they've got to do the geotechnical work, of course, for designing the tank. The site is tight, but I think we'll be able to design a tank that's going to be at least as big as the one that we have there, which is 215,000 gallons. And I think we'll try to actually increase that a bit more, because that's one of the sites that we want to use for the regional project booster pumping facility as well. So, so far everything is going along rapidly.
Just a correction, it's a 210,000 gallon tank, but, another thing we need to add to the agenda is, it is moving fast, they've already had surveyor there and everything, we need an agenda item for disposing of useless equipment around here. That's gonna be a whole discussion. We got a dump truck that's basically worthless that we gotta get rid of, that old trailer, several things, because right where that stuff's sitting is where we gotta put a new tank. So you guys are gonna have to vote on what to do with that stuff, so if we could add that to the next agenda, that will help.
Are you working already on a scrap connection?
Well, that's my suggestion, just going with scrap, and I could definitely work on that. Auctioning, I've called several, and what they want is getting next to nothing for it if you can't show that they run. To make them run and perform somehow, like the old leak truck and all that stuff, we have to put a bunch of money into them to make them run.
No.
To try to get them, so most of this stuff is just gonna be a matter, like the trailer, we could probably auction off.
Out of order. We'd have to have a agenda item.
Agenda item. All right.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Director Schoenberg?
I have a question about the footprint of the tank, because it looks to me like there isn't level ground large enough for us, the tank. And so I want to know how we are thinking about, like, are we gonna have to fill in a part of, I mean, I'm just wondering where the footprint is, because to my mind, I wouldn't be able to put a tank right there and without,
Definitely goes downhill.
yeah, it goes downhill.
Since it floats with 3 other tanks, it has to be the same elevation, so he could respond with.
So how does that work, B? We have to
Well,
compact and
We're,
fill
we're
in,
looking,
or?
we're looking, yeah, we have to fill. As soon as we get the geotechnical work done, we'll know exactly what the parameters are for the, for that work. But yes, we'll have to level it out where we put the tank. And we have looked at the site and we know that it is tight for sure, but we picked a spot where we can set a tank. And now we need to do the geotechnical work, but it will be a fill type of a situation.
And how does that affect earthquake issues? Because that, you know, with where we sit and filling something there, is that gonna be potentially, I mean, you know, I know houses are one thing, but a tank's really heavy. So is that something that's gonna be, is that gonna greatly increase the cost, I guess is what I'm saying? And is it, and is it better price-wise? I mean, have you compared price-wise putting a temporary tank and tearing down the tank which has a current footprint that works, as opposed to the price of compacting and whatever other earthquake stuff we would have to do to put the tank in that other spot next to the current tank? I mean, I'm just curious, like price-wise, are we paying more to do all this, like, you know, extra work that may create some earthquake issues, or are we some additional earthquake issues? I mean, the whole town's earthquake issues, but some additional earthquake issues? Or, I mean, have we thought about that? Have we compared that?
You know, there's a couple of things to think about where that tank's sitting right now, the one that you have. One is that foundation is probably not earthquake proof itself.
No,
What we're gonna have to do is go in and excavate. If we were to build a tank right there, we'd have to go in and excavate and recompact that foundation at that point.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, you know, it's kind of six one way, half a dozen the other, but the important thing I think to keep in mind is we really need that tank, the Elm tank, and we need to replace it as quickly as we can with a tank that's as close to the volume that we have there or greater.
Or more, okay.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, I was just curious if we had, but, you know, it makes sense if we have to do a bunch of extra work in the site where it already exists. And then potentially once we have the replacement tank, if for the project, because we had talked about potentially putting 2 tanks or another booster or something on that site, we'd have the flatter site, which still may need to be worked on, but we'd have that for other things that we might need as well.
Yeah.
The flatter part of the site, yeah.
Once we tear down the old tank, we'll have, you know, a pretty nice area there for whatever use we need it for. But what we'll do, we'll build extra capacity. We're gonna try to build some extra capacity into that tank itself. And then it would be used for both the replacement and for the regional project as well.
Kind of funny, just so you know, it's kind of funny that tank was built, the overflow and everything was up nearly at the top. But 2012, when we replaced 4 tanks, we went higher a ring, but we didn't get 8 more feet of water. We actually lost like 3 or 4 feet from the top. You have to design the overflow now for seismic waves or whatever it was. So even though we're gonna try to add some capacity by going higher, we still won't gain as much volume as we thought we would. But if we don't go up an extra ring, then we're certainly not gonna have as much as what we had already because of the way the overflows are. If you look at all the new tanks like on Pine One, it looks like, well, why'd they put that so far down the tank? And I think that has something to, he could explain, but I think that has something to do with the earthquake stuff.
Yeah, there's 2 forms of motion that you consider when you design a tank. One is the initial shock that, you know, tries to move that tank sideways, maybe up and down too. And that's a pretty good blow right there to the structure and the foundation. But what really ends up happening is that starts a motion inside the tank it's called sloshing. And that motion hits the side, rides up on one side and then rides up on the other, and it adds to the stress on the tank wall. So we have to design them for all of that. The structure itself has to be designed in order to take those stresses, and has to be high enough to accept that sloshing wave. And then the third thing is the foundation has to be designed to hold that tank down. Most of the things that we find with tanks, the older tanks particularly, is what is kind of in the vernacular terms, elephant footing of the bottom of the tank. And what happens is when that stress hits that far side of that tank, say it's pushing from right to left, on the left side, that tank wall collapses at the bottom. And it just kind of looks like an elephant foot out there on that side. And usually it fails right there. And then the whole tank drains. And so we have to make sure that we not only stop that tank from rotating, but we build that tank wall strong enough so that it won't do that. And then we have to look at the connections to make sure they won't rip out. And so there are a number of things that we have to look at. And, and you are in probably the most earthquake prone area of the state.
Yeah.
Of course we are.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
And one last question, but we're not necessarily at all looking at expanding the footprint period of the making the tank larger diameter wise.
Yeah, we're thinking that same diameter, is going to be about all that will fit. And give us room around the tank to do what needs to be done.
For everything else we need. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? Discussion vote on the quote from the environmental work.
But let's use still B. Where are we at on the environmental?
We have a quote from Tom Dodson.
I didn't look at it yet because it came so late.
I missed the question.
Oh, it's in the packet somewhere. I just wasn't able to get the packet, so I didn't read it.
So it won't exceed $4,000.
So you need that vote from us this evening?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just not hearing what's going on. What
Oh,
is
the Tom Dodson quote, we're on,
yeah.
we're on 13B, the
Yeah.
Tom Dodson quote.
Okay. Yeah, Tom has two out there. They're both 2,000. One is for our pipeline potholing project. We need to get a notice of exemption for that I haven't done, but Tom says it's best to do it just to be safe, file one. And the second is to get the notice of determination for the replacement project for the Elm tank. They're both 2,000.
Well, we need to break this in two quotes since the pipeline is being paid for by the state.
Yeah.
The Elm tank is paid for by us.
Right.
Yeah.
Need a motion?
I'd like to move that we accept a $2,000 quote for the pipeline, for the environmental work for the pipeline I'm gonna do first. Well, actually, can we even do the pipeline? That should have happened under pipeline. So no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do this one, and then we're gonna have to back up to the pipeline.
Okay.
So I'm gonna, move that we accept the quote from Tom Dodson and Associates for environmental work on the, Elm Trail Water Reservoir, which qualifies with the criteria for a Class 2 replacement or reconstruction, not to exceed $2,000.
I will second that motion.
Okay, motion has been made by Director Schoenberg and seconded by Director Nyman. Roll call as directors. Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Nyman,
Aye.
Director Schoenberg,
Aye.
Director Kelly. Aye. Gibson, aye, 5-0.
Actually, I need to add one thing to that. With who was the seconder? Was
Aye.
Dr. Nyman? Dr. Nyman, Director Nyman. Yeah, you're a doctor now. I forgot to add the part that, that includes completing and filing the notice of exemption for that package.
I accept that from you.
Okay, moving on. Discussion vote update.
Actually, we need to backtrack if we can get, a motion to do that back to the,
I make a motion that we go back to the pipeline.
and I guess it would be 11, A, are we? Oh, we already let them go, so I don't know how this is covered. I guess it may have to come out of our pocket. We may have to figure it out later, but, yeah, I'd like to move that we go back to 11A, discussion vote update on potholing and mapping.
I second that.
Motion has been made by Director Schoenberg and seconded by Director Nyman. Roll call directors. Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Nyman,
Aye.
Director Schoenberg,
Aye.
Director Kelly. Aye. Director Gibson, aye, 5-0. The motion has been passed.
Okay, and then I'd like to move, since we're back there, I'd like to move that we, allow, Tom, accept, the quote from Tom Dodson and Associates for the, for their proposal. I keep hearing myself. Yeah, it's kind of driving me crazy. It's like an echo. For the proposal, for the pipeline, exemption that, it's, qualifies with a criteria for Class 6 categorical exemption, information gathering categorical exemption. That won't exceed $2,000 for that environmental work, and that it will also include filing the notice of exemption.
I'll second that.
The motion has been made by Director Schoenberg and seconded by Director Nyman. Roll call directors. Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Nyman,
Aye.
Director Schoenberg,
Aye.
Director Kelly. Aye. Gibson, aye, 5-0. Now,
Dee, could you have him break that quote out into two different, quotes?
Or do we invoice it separately when he invoices it?
Yeah, he just needs to be invoiced. We don't need to quote it
Okay,
in because we
okay.
already voted
All
on
right,
it,
as
but,
long as he invoices it separately, because that way there isn't any confusion.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
discussion vote update on the nitrate analyzer and returning to compliance.
Okay, so, as you know, we have all that stuff, and he's been working, on the manual that Jesse wants. Ran into a hitch that set us back a couple days, because when we went to download the data from the nitrate analyzer with the thumb drive, we downloaded two files, we weren't sure which one it was. So then when Dee got it back to his office to try to access it, it said password protected. So, Beth had to reach out to Hawk, the manufacturer, figure out what that was all about. Turned out that one of the files we downloaded is a service log that we don't need, and they have a password protection on it. So in the future, we'll only download the one file, there won't be a password thing on it, and and Ness is gonna figure out how to pipe that straight into to the computer, so that held us up for a little bit, but I'm still hoping Dee can say how far along he is on the manual, but I'm hoping we can submit it to Jesse and get this done with.
Yeah, because Dee, we're still getting, every day, there's still, and we're still having to spend all that money to put out the notices, and on the, social media for this town, it's like people are so confused, and they still think that there's these horrible things going on. So the sooner that we could stop sending this thing month after month after month, the easier things will be.
Well, it's done, except for the, I'm trying to get this information from the nitrate analyzer and import it into the tables, one of the tables in the report. And as soon as I get that, I'm going to send it out to Jesse for his review. So it is substantially done, just waiting to, and this texted me today and said he was finally able to get with Hawk, the people that build this analyzer, and determine what was preventing him from downloading this information. And so I suspect that tomorrow or Monday, I'll get a file that has that information. I'll put the information in the tables, and then I will email off the report both to you, the directors, Johnny, and then also to Jesse, so that he will then have a report to review. And I'm sure we'll go through what we did with the other report, but I'll respond as quickly as I get his comments. So I do appreciate the stress you guys are under in the community with having to do this. So it is, we're moving, we're right at the end of it, just need a little bit more data and it's ready to go.
Thank you, Dee.
And we don't need these for number 15, do we?
Nah,
Or the people who like the woods, if they'd like to
take the rest of the night off, Dee.
spend this evening with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I got a granddaughter that's celebrating her 11th birthday, and I'm gonna see if I can pick up the end of that right now.
All right, brother. Just have a piece of cake.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Dee.
I'm hoping that we could entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we take a 5-minute break.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made by Director Kelling and seconded by Director Garcia. Roll call directors, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Nyman.
All right.
Director Schoenberg.
Aye.
Director Kelling.
Aye.
Gibson is aye, 5-0. Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Hyman.
Aye.
I forgot your name for a minute. Mr. Schoenberg.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly. Aye. Director Gibson, aye. Motion passed 5-0-0. Well, that was a senior moment.
This is not good. We're getting loopy earlier and earlier. It's not even 8:30 yet.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Good night, Pam. Good night, Mary.
Thanks,
Chris. Good night, Pam.
LOW, folks.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Sorry, I was on mute. We did not hear the last part of your meeting at all. So good night, everyone. Hope you enjoy.